into using Desmos in a high school math classroom, some of what we're working with today can also be used in a middle school classroom and even an elementary classroom, but I'm going to focus more on some of the high school content. And feel free, if you have questions, to pop them in the chat. I've got some colleagues in there that are there to kind of help direct some questions. You can also find the link to this slide deck on the Digital Learning Channel spreadsheet. So let's dive in. So what is Desmos? So this is the quick and down and dirty definition. Desmos is just an online calculator that allows them to do more than just calculations. They can graph, they can put in images, they can animate. But the great thing about it is it's also a mobile application. So it can be used on tablets, on cell phones, other digital platforms as well. A lot of great things about Desmos is that a majority of the things that you can create on the handheld TI calculator, you can do in Desmos and amplify it. So here's just an image. So looking at the examples, up on the top left, we can be as simple as graphing just a single equation that graphs a line and start to answer some questions about that. We can amp it up and add in down here in the bottom right to where we've overlaid a picture and really kind of predicted or modeled what a football may do in the pathway of a football. But then if you look up in the top right, you can see some students have really done some phenomenal art pieces, essentially, using math. And they've written equations, they've put in some constraints, and provided a lot of color. So with this, you can do almost anything in Desmos, and this is just one of the basic uses that people traditionally use Desmos for. But today we're going to look at just a few things that kind of amp it up. One thing I do want to note is, in reference to KDE in Kentucky, we've adopted Desmos as our online calculator for K-Prep from third grade all the way up through high school. So on this slide, when you pull up the slide deck from the spreadsheet, you actually have a direct link to the testing calculator students will be using, so you can start using those in your classroom now with NTI and really getting students some opportunity to engage with those in a very less stress and a less pressure environment while they're working on just their everyday lessons. But wait, there's more with Desmos, a lot more. And here in just a moment, we're going to actually dive into the website, but I want to give you some highlights about what you can find with Desmos. So with Desmos, already they have some really great developers and teachers that are considered and certified to be Desmos teachers. Those teachers have classroom activities that are already built. They have different type of collections that are already built. There are custom activities that if there's a certain thing you want to do, there are you can create. If you want a card sort, if you want more of some interaction with students, that can be built in. There's self-paced learning for you as the teacher and the learner of how do I actually use Desmos in my classrooms. They have some nice videos and tutorials, whether it be a webinar or actual self-paced. They also have live training with current program developers. So you can actually go on and two of their program developers sit and converse with them, ask them for help, and get some things like, hey, I'm trying to do this. How might I go about doing this? And I've run into this challenge. So there's some direct interaction with Desmos people, which to me has been amazing and supportive for myself and learning a lot about this. So those are just kind of the icings that's there. We've not gotten into the cake a little bit. So to access it, and I highly suggest that maybe you open up a new window and you go ahead and log on. to where you can kind of see it for yourself as well as take you through it. You'll want to go to teacher.desmos.com, create your free account. The teacher is the only one that needs to have the account. The students, they would go into down here at student.desmos, and you'll have a class code or a specific link that you can share in your Google Classroom. Once you log in, decide what topic. And what's interesting about Desmos is we search by topic, not standard. So you'll want to look at the overarching topic, because among that topic, it covers all the different standards in there. And then have fun. So let's take a minute and dive into Desmos for teachers. So you'll want to create your account so that you log in. And once you log in under your teacher, this is the screen that comes up. As you can see, they have featured collections. Then they have featured activities. So what these are, most of these are created by Desmos if they're featured. It's usually some of the ones that are more commonly used or more commonly bookmarked by teachers, so they can actually go in and assign them. Excuse me. So one of the things that I want us to look at is here, let's look at this idea with collections. Collections are a series of different activities that they've put together to talk about standard progression, to get students engaged in what does that topic look like. As you can see, quadratic functions are down here, but I want to do a search. So up at the top left in the search, I'm going to search for quadratic functions. And even while I'm typing some Desmos activities that they've created, and these are activities, but then as you can see from the community. So if teachers create one, they are actually, you can make it public. So if you create a custom one, you can make it public and share for everybody. And other teachers across the world have done that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and click into quadratic functions. As you can see here, there's a listing of activities. And the way I know it's an activity is it gives me a time limit.
Okay, so there where it says Ann Schwartz, that's just a teacher that's created this lesson?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's just somebody who has created this lesson. They've decided that, hey, their class needed something specific. There's a description here. As you can see, hers really focuses on vocabulary. So that may be a goal of your lesson that you want to work with. What's the different vocabulary that you could work with? But then down here, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to match my parabola. See where it says by Desmos?
Yes.
Desmos creators and Desmos curriculum writers have actually created this one.
So it's the power of this. Desmos is actually creating stuff, but then they're crowdsourcing the community expertise as well to create. So excellent.
Absolutely. They are bringing that in. And what's nice is you can see down here where it says, will it hoop? See how there's a blue bookmark? That is an activity that I have actually used in my classroom when I was in the classroom. And I bookmarked it because it's one I wanted to come back to. So as you're looking through these activities, you have the option to bookmark it. So if I go into Will It Hoop, it gives you all the different modes in which it's accessible on. But what's nice is it actually gives you some different kind of translations, some connections for activity builders. If it has been translated into other languages, that is listed with those links. So for our ESL students, you can look for activities that also have multiple languages and directly give them that activity in their language to kind of help support them with that. What does this activity really look like? If you scroll down, as you can see here, it's one I've used. So it's already in my dashboard. You can see the number of students that have used it and the date in which we used it. But down at the bottom, it shows you slide by slide of what kids would be doing. So if you click student preview, you can actually go through it as a student and really see, okay, what are they going to see? But what's nice is when it's Desmos created by their developers, down in the bottom left, you see teacher moves. So it'll give you some suggestion as a teacher at what should be going on this slide. And so you can drag the points where it says drag the black points to create the blue one. So I'm trying to move this and match it up as best as I can. But as a student, I feel like I'm just kind of playing.
Yeah. Man, like looking at this stuff, it's like just amazes me how far stuff's come. Like I think back to student teaching like 12, 15 years ago. And like, man, if I was a student teacher now and they said design a lesson plan or whatever, this would be, it just would be cake. I mean, this is awesome. It's just all built for you.
Yes, well, it is. And the great thing about this is here I'm having students create, but what's pretty cool about this is this one I actually modified. So from these standard ones that they have and what they've provided, I've actually gone in with a colleague of mine in our PLC when I was in the classroom, and we modified it a little bit. We added in some extra slides and kind of made it our own. So the way you kind of start to do that is over on the left-hand side, you can search collections. The ones that I've bookmarked will show up under those collections. So my bookmarks are there. But I can go into custom. These are ones that I've tried to start working with, or I've tried to create my own and to kind of work with some of those. And then in my history shows all the ones that I've enacted in a classroom or I've modified in some fashion. So I want to show you guys the exponential graphs, because this is one, Kate Bowles, I believe you were on here, was my PLC member, and we worked together to create this exponential graphing. So in order to get students logged on, all they need to know is this address and these few letters. So they just go to student.desmos. It looks just like this as a student. If they've been signed in before or sign out, they can put that class code. That class code are usually letters or a grouping of numbers and things of that nature.
So let me ask you this, Stacy. So what's the Google Classroom integration with this?
So with Google Classroom, what's really nice is you can embed them.
Yeah, okay.
You can embed them into like a post, or you can hyperlink this link down below here if they wanted to. You can also easily give them the student.desmos address and give them that keyword.
Cool.
So 3 different ways in which you can work with it in Google Classroom.
Yeah, I was thinking I would just go to the stream and post that link there. So it says share this link with your students. Yeah, that's awesome.
That could also be like on your Google Classroom where you have important links, or a section to where maybe you put the Desmos the testing calculator links, and then you put the student link, so that all they have to go to, those are their important links. And so once I go into this, what's really cool is see here how you see David Hilbert. So I actually have the anonymize to where we have some anonymity going on. We don't know which kids, because I could possibly show this screen and it would show me which slides students have done, which slides maybe they've skipped over, as you can see in gray, to where I can do some on-the-spot kind of formative assessment with students to kind of see where they are, what pacing might be. So if I dive into this, and let's look at this one as a student. So at the beginning, Katie and I, when we were creating this, we wanted to set it up. This was a sub day. We were doing some work with workshop model and had some subs covering classrooms, but also so we could work with smaller groups. But we wanted kids, this was their first true interaction with exponential functions. And they wanted, we wanted
them. That's a special time too.
Do what?
That's special. It's their first interaction with exponential. Yeah, very good.
Right. Well, we've talked about like kind of some of the differences, and they've seen the graph before in comparing to what was nonlinear. but this was their first interaction with any type of equation. And as you can see, our 2 questions down here are our goals. So we let them know we want them to be able to answer those 2 questions by the end of this based upon just what they know. What can they experience? And literally all of this is true exploration. What's cool with Desmos too is we programmed this to do some animation. So all students, we have a question. The red function is stationary and it's that equation. But while watching this animation, what's going on? How might you describe this? What might be an example? And here we're just wanting kids to get out their answers. So here, if we're looking at this, well, it looks like some number in the equation is increasing and decreasing. I don't know exactly what, but when I click share with class here, a minimum of 3 other students' responses would show up. So if I had this running with the class, there's immediate feedback. So I would start seeing, as students were entering their answers, I could get some feedback. I could kind of compare, maybe I need some ideas from students and kind of how do I say certain things? And so it would pop up there.
Interesting. So it says 3 other student responses show up there. So you said a minimum. So can you set like how many responses you would get, or is it just default to 3?
Yeah, you can set it up to where every response comes up. You can set it up to be, no responses. Like, so maybe you want to use that slide as an actual assessment type, a formative assessment type question. You can get no feedback or multiple feedback.
Neat.
So then we wanted them to look, here's 4 different functions. What's really going on with A? Up until this point, we didn't even define A. We want kids to try to figure it out. So I can click on these points. That would give me those y-intercepts. Students should know by this point about different y-intercepts. Looking for some things. They can jot their ideas here. Share with class. 3 other students as kind of respond as things come up. But I want to take you to a really interesting slide. So we've taken an image before and we've modified it to where now they have equations. So we're slowly building them up in scaffolding, but this is still based upon what they're observing. What do they already know about functions and lines? And then how might I, even in general, just explain what I see? So maybe there comes a point to where if I pop out of student view and go back to my summary, I see, okay, here, this student didn't do this card sort. So I want to pop to the card sort. I can see how the student responded. The 2 green ones, they've matched, were correct. But these 2 orange ones aren't correct. So it's clearly a quick formative assessment. But if I wanted everybody to go there, I just click pacing. Select a screen to start your pacing. So I want everybody to go to that. So I'm restricting them to just that screen. So students, no matter where they were forced to come back to this card sort. So here I could maybe make some class discussion about, okay, what groupings did you guys have? And do some class discussion, even though they may be at different places. What are some of those key questions we can talk about? And matching is as simple as drop and drag. And so they lay it on top of each other. So we want a decreasing one and so forth. So it's not limited to just explore and type and so forth. I can stop it, let them go back once our classroom discussion. But then in here, there's even options to just no grid, no nothing, sketch it. What do you think an exponential graph looks like? That's increasing. And there's a bunch of different ways in which that you can have students. respond, they can work with each other, and provide feedback. What's nice, if you think about a great backpack artifact for math, really has students identify the process in which they've learned the material or they've discovered the material. So if this is a discussion point, I could easily take a snapshot and add a photo for every kid if I wanted to. So I could go in and quickly capture students' work. So maybe there's a sketch that a student did that was really nice. I could easily click snapshot and take a snapshot for that student.
Cool.
And upload that and have that so that students can have that for their backpack or use that potentially in a reflection component to where, hey, this is where I started with exploratory, and here's an assessment a few days later that I took. How did I get from this discovery to this assessment? And I could have some images along the way. So I am going to back out of this by just clicking the big D for Desmos takes you back to your home screen. So I want to check, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, Kristen Miller asked, is exponential graphs investigation public? I can't find it in the search. Can you share?
No, I believe we made it private, but I can open it up.
Okay, cool.
I can open it up.
Good to know.
Yep. Yeah, no, this was something we kind of created, and we're just kind of testing some things out. Match My Parabola is one to where you can set it up to be a game, to where students can go head to head with other random classmates, and challenge what's going to be the equation that fits those three dots, what's going to be the best equation, and they challenge each other and can kind of work back and forth with that. So there's a lot of different options within Desmos that are already created. You can modify, create your own, and kind of work with. So, and I know we're about 5 more minutes. So the remaining part of the slide deck just kind of gives you some of those quick definitions we discussed about collections, activities, custom activities. There is specific self-paced learning if you want to dive into certain features, such as the geometry tools, because I know I've shown you a lot that deal with algebra and functions, but they've really upgraded a lot to do some geometric tools. And how do I work with, using the grid to create a square or to create a quadrilateral that maybe I have to prove it's a specific shape. They have those. And then what's really nice is through all of this coronavirus, they have some specific distance learning opportunities that they've developed or they've tagged to truly help teachers during this NTI time and try to provide some new learning, but it's based on curiosity and just kind of exploring. What do you think? What's going on here? What do we see? What are those clues? Taking it from ELA with context clues. What's context? What are the structures and supports we know in our schema to really kind of make a conclusion on where we're at? And so I want to thank you guys for your time. I am here to kind of help. I'm not an expert in Desmos by any means. We have some great teachers across the district who use Desmos regularly and for various things. So if I can't answer a question, I may refer you to one of them. But there are my office hours. Feel free to pop in, join me if you have any questions.